Okay. Moving all my lives on YouTube. Let's do this. I gotta change my account first. Edit profile. Bio. We're gonna say only going live. Now going live on YouTube. YouTube. Okay, let's open up the data, guys. Welcome to my first YouTube live in a while. We got one person here, and I have no idea how to look at comments. One person we got here. I never done this kind of shit. The quality is freaking amazing. Welcome to my backyard. Perfect example why I'm saying that you should live in a community and not freaking alone, because if you live as a community, this is what you get. Nice to see you. Did you find me on TikTok? So the way I understand lives in YouTube is that once you do them, they get posted as a video on YouTube too, which I'm trying to figure out if the search engine optimization is exactly the same. I love your videos. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I guess that we're gonna do the video and then just post it as a normal video. Topic of today, Italy, we're no longer having children. This is something that I looked up around. This is something that we have been talking about for a while. TikTok has been exploding about it too. Actually, you know what? No, if I do a TikTok live, it will be blocked. And we added some research. In 2021, the number of births in the country reached its historic minimum since 1861. Talking about Italy, Saudi Arabia, beautiful. We're not alone. 22 other countries could have halved their population by 2100 because there simply aren't enough boys and girls being born. And this is not only Italy, many more. But why is this happening, and how can we reverse this? 20th century, the global population experienced its greatest increase in history. In 1900, there were 1.6 billion people on Earth, and by 2000, we reached 6 billion. So just in 100 years, we six-folded our, let's say, population. Not six-folded, five-folded, a little bit less. Meanwhile, life expectancy increased and the infant mortality rate decreased. So part of the growth in all of this, why are you streaming on TikTok? Because fuck TikTok. I'm starting from zero here on YouTube. I'm just posting there to push people on YouTube. With that said, what did we say? Infant mortality decreased. Many scholars and governments anticipated the consequences of this population increase, such as famines, resource depletion, and increased poverty in low-income countries. This is why we had birth control policies. I mean, I lived in China for a while, and the one-child policy was extremely popular at the time when I was there. This was 2008, 2009, especially because populations were shitting their pants about an increase in population. There was the general fear about not having enough food for everybody, food production. However, while there was the fear, food production increased. Actually, funny thing, if you actually look at how much food we're producing today, we could end starvation across the whole world. The reason why we have starvation still across the world is not because of food, it's because of politics. And if you look at the numbers, that is very correct. Actually, you know what? Do we produce enough food? Do we produce enough food for everyone? And the answer is, today the world produces 150% more food on only 13% more land compared to 1960. There is enough for everybody, over 7 billion. So there is enough food for 10 billion people, and we're just over 7 billion. So again, there's enough food for everybody. The real reason why we have starvation is because of politics, for fucking hell. A study published in a Lancet journal tells us that the global fertility rate has nearly halved, and this could become a problem. The fertility rate is the average number of children a woman gives birth to, and it was 2.4 globally in 2017. The study predicts that it will fall below 1.7 in 2100. So in the next 80 years, we will fall under replacement rate. You have to understand that we are always two people to make a kid as per now. Then in the future, we don't know, although we can already have kids with just one person nowadays with new technology. The fact is, if you need two people, you need to produce two people to keep population stable. So you need a fertility rate of 2 at least. If the fertility rate is under 2, population decreases. We're expected to go at 1.7 by 2100. And right now we are around 2, a little bit over 2. So we're still growing, but slowly. The decline in births is a phenomenon in almost every part of the world. In Africa, for example, population growth dynamics are still at play. By the end of the century, Nigeria's population could surpass China's, which is fucked up. That's a lot of growth. However, fertility rates are decreasing almost everywhere. Birth plummeted at the end of 2020 after the spread of COVID, and many Western countries, including Italy, are among the 23 countries that could halve the population by 2100. What does this mean? This means that in the next 80 years, 23 of the top countries in the world, of which also mine, Italy, could lose 50% of their population, which kind of sucks. By the way, guys, if you have comments, you can leave them here and I can respond. In the next 10 years, Italy has seen 27% decline in births, and according to projections from Istat, which is basically the Italian government bureau of statistics, they're likely to decrease even further. The Italian population could drop from today's 61 million, which by the way is now 59 million, by the end to 28 million by the end of the century, which sucks. I mean, considering that most of Italians are old, distribuzione, popolazione, let's pull it out, Italia, per età, fascia età. So, 35% is underage, 13% is over 55. Okay, so we're old, but not that old, which is interesting. I thought we were among the oldest, but the old population is growing dramatically, which means that most of our population, opala, I feel dumb listening to you. Women can have kids without men. I mean, yes. So if you really think about it, and now without, let's say, talking about this, it mentions the sex recession. So in a world where you can pleasure yourself very easily with toys and everything, and I gotta be very honest about this, I believe that many of the toys that the ladies are using are far more powerful than any kind of intimacy you can have with a man, because as a woman you know your body much more than a man does, because you know yourself compared to explaining yourself to another person. So to pleasure yourself, you don't need a man anymore. To have kids, you can delegate that to technology, at least already now expensively, but in the future even easier. Not really. Why you say not really? Men are better. I mean, I'm definitely traditionalist. I believe that no tool can beat true love, that for sure. Because if you have intimacy with love, nothing can beat that. However, if you consider most of intercourse, which is casual, I definitely agree that a tool can do much more than a casual intercourse. Why is this thing keep on asking me? This thing keeps on asking me. Okay. It keeps on pounding out. Fucking charger. We got it. As long as I don't touch this shit, it should be working. So what I was saying is, intercourse is not a must anymore, because you can pleasure yourself with tools. Men can pleasure themselves the old way, although it's much nicer to have intimacy. And by doing that, you're separating the two. Actually, this has been also said in the article. We have something called a sex recession. In a world where you can have as much intimacy as you want, we have a recession of sex. People are not having having fun anymore at all. Boys are shitting their pants because statistically a boy is scared of going to a girl, and statistically a girl thinks that a boy approaching her, and this is the data statistics that I recently read, a girl is more likely to think that any kind of approach from a man, even a nice one, can be considered harassment. And then there's all factor of if she doesn't like you, she can consider it harassment very quickly. So boys are scared of going to a girls. Girls consider everything harassment unless they like the boy, which is very unlikely. Girls can pleasure themselves much quickly. You're kind of separating the two things. So you're not having intercourse, you have a sex recession, you're less likely to have babies. Also, you have now the whole independence movement, which is nice because you have now full independence of the lady, which is a beautiful achievement. However, now, as a lady has to plan her life also around working, however, now, as a girl has to plan her whole life around working too, the kid will be more on the sidelines. The question is, in today's society where all this is happening, we are having less intimacy, we're having less relationships and everything, what will happen in the next 20 years? As we have an inflation of single, let's say, families, single households, not even families, people living alone, which is, by the way, an investment that I'm doing. I'm investing a lot in industries that focus and has as an objective to satisfy single households, such as cat food, dog food, streaming services, kind of activities, travel. People have more disposable incomes, people are spending it because they're more in solitude, they're spending it on activities, on this kind of entertainment. But my question is, in 20 years, will all these people that are now single be happier in the life or not? Because once you hit 40, even as a man, I believe that life becomes very lonely. Now, men are much more used to loneliness in general because that's the way we are in society. But a woman that has been, let's say, pumped with attention in her 20s and 30s, the question is, what will happen after that? Let's continue here with the whole discussion. The problem is that change can start slowly, but once triggered, the decline, like growth, develops exponentially. With fewer births, there will be fewer women, and even fewer will have children, creating a true chain reaction. A planet with fewer people could alleviate resource pressure, which I don't think we have at the extent we actually think. Slow the destructive impact of climate change, okay, and reduce the burden of family care, which disproportionately falls on women. Okay, that's true. Family care normally has been always gone on women, so why could this trend become a problem? Firstly, because fewer people do not necessarily mean more resources for everyone. Today, the largest share of consumption is in the hands of a relatively small number of people. This may not change. Additionally, fewer births mean an increasingly aging population. Slowing economic growth and hindering change. Supportive innovative policies become more challenging in a country with fewer children, in a world with few young people and many elderly. Yes, as you have an aging population with fewer young people, who is taking care of the elderly? I believe that with less young people, life expectancy will go lower. Keep in mind that the reason why so many people in Italy go so old is the fact that they have a purpose of living, which is taking care also of the younger generations. Without purpose, a person tends to die much younger. That is a fact proven in documentaries and data, the fact of purpose of life in terms of family. New economic challenges could arise. We would have to struggle to grow with fewer workers and taxpayers to fund social support and healthcare for an ever-growing number of elderly. With less people paying taxes and more people in pensions, we could be in an issue because we won't have young people paying the taxes and supporting social projects such as public pensions in Italy, which could be a big problem. That's something I discuss in general. I hate public pensions. I believe that if you create a world where everybody is responsible for themselves and for society, the world will be easier to live in. If you have a private pension that is based on your responsibility, you're more likely to be less of a burden of society. Formulating policies to encourage people to have more children is difficult and expensive, true, as many countries have learned in recent years. In some cases, immigration is the fastest and more resilient way to maintain population growth, but maintaining balance is not easy. If you see at politicians today, very true, a mass amount of immigration coming in, but also a change of population. You're losing the local population and growing the immigrant population that, by the way, on paper, also culturally wise, seem to be reproducing at a much higher pace. Generally speaking, if you look at society today, the poorer side of the country tends to reproduce much more than the richer side of the country, the more educated side of the country. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just statistics that I'm putting out. So what will happen here is, to keep the population growth, you need to increase immigration because we are not reproducing as much, which means that you will have a switch in society. The question is, will the switch come back? Will it continue the trend? We don't know. The point is that the decline in population is like its exponential growth is not inherently a problem. Many women are having fewer children because it's what they want. Interesting. Smaller populations could lead to higher wages, more equitable societies, lower emissions, and a higher quality of life for the fewer children being born. The real issue is how governments will respond to this phenomenon and whether they will be able to create policies that make the world more welcoming for future families. This is the end of the article, which is created by data that I put onto ChatGPT that yielded to this. Very interesting. We have both sides of all of this. What is your thought on families? I believe that the decline in birth rates is a problem, and I'm speaking as a 28-year-old man that in today's society, actually in the past society, should have been already married with a couple of children. I have to say that having children is expensive. My goal is to have children once I can afford for them a very good life. I hope sooner than later. But very problematic. So the solution around this is, first of all, the cost of living crisis. If we drop prices of life, cost of life in these modern societies, you're definitely incentivizing all this much more. If you're dropping in incentives to have children, you're definitely incentivizing families, but that's very expensive. So how do you go around it? Do you just drop population and see what happens? That could be also, let's say, a general solution. In many cases, if you look at economic policies, at least what's written in the books, you could say that you should leave the invisible hand doing everything. Right now we have a drop in birth rates. Once we get to a stable point, birth rates will go back up. Of course, in a society that is becoming poorer and poorer and poorer, and more selfish, because we're also becoming much more selfish. Here the article, based on data, says that ladies do not want kids, which is very interesting. Men for sure definitely want more kids than a woman. I don't know about that. Men definitely want heritage, leave, say, future. But the question is that what the women want? I don't know. You have to respond on that on your side. Guys, I believe I'm gonna close the live for here. This is my first one like this. I've never done these. I should do another one, unless you have questions to respond to right now. Let me see the comment section. How do I look at the comment section here? Top chat. Close. Un abbraccio da Genova. Men are better. No, I think we're the same. I work as a software developer for an insurance company for pet medical costs. I think they picked the right industry for the future. You did. This video will only be in English, guys, so if you're asking questions, ask them in English because of search engine optimizations. What are the trends in Italy? Population trends in Italy. Population trends in Europe. Because Italy has the slowest population. There was a whole TikTok meme saying that Italy didn't have a kid for 3 months, which was bullshit, by the way. Italy still has kids, just at a much slower pace compared to many other countries. Between toys and men. But if you say it as a man, who are you to speak? You should have the woman talk about it. The list of European countries by population. At the same time, we still are a very strong economy. Yeah, this pisses me off. Of course, there's the data, there is what people say, and then there is the long-term effects of what people think and do not say. I believe that, generally speaking, we want to live in a community, because if you look at isolation, statistically, isolation has been proven to be more detrimental to the human being than smoking a pack of cigarettes every single day. That is the way it was compared. Patrick Brett David put out the statistic taken from data. So isolation sucks. As per now, we say that isolation is better, but if you look at depression rates in America, they clearly are not. People say that they're awesome being alone. But in reality, they're depressed. They look at their social media every single day. Are they happy? I don't think about it. I don't think so. I think it's utter bullshit. I think there's a big discrepancy between what people say, what people actually do and are and feel. I think they're in denial, honestly, and I think it's bullshit. What I would like to see is a growth of relationship. And I'm saying this is a person that has and has been having a lot of fun while looking for potentially a partner. Like if I find a good partner, I'll probably be stopping what I do. Of course, for a person like me, it's also very hard to find, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think that's all. There's nothing else that comes to my mind. 20 minutes of talking non-stop. I think that's pretty good. Guys, I'm gonna close it here for now, and I will see you on to the next one. How difficult is it to get a visa sponsorship of a bachelor degree in finance in Italy? Being Italian, I'd like to work in the US, and after that, switching into real estate investing, kind of doing what you're doing. First thing, you need the bachelor degree. Second thing, while you take the bachelor degree, you should figure out whether you can find a job in America or whether you should study in America. Definitely studying in America could give you some extra time to find a job and gives you American credentials, which is an advantage. But if you're studying something very specific, or if you believe you have a vitae compared to many of your peers, that is much more powerful, much more likely to have you hired. I mean, you're an Italian speaker with a degree wanting to come to America. If you find some companies with Italian background in America, you definitely are an advantage. The reason why I got hired in Lamborghini, I believe 50% of it was the fact that I already had a green card and I spoke Italian. So that got me hired in Lamborghini immediately. They didn't need to sponsor me. Fact is, if you can place yourself in a niche where people like you are very needed, in a place where they don't find many workers as you with your background, it can definitely give you an edge to get a job. And by the way, you asking about immigration to come to America is another example of the declining population of Italy. And I'm also the perfect example. I'm fully aware of my responsibility in the drop of population of Italy. Italy, although a beautiful country, does not provide the growth that countries like America do to the persona. And this is why we came here, because this country still pumps for meritocracy. Italy does not. So on top of the declining population because of what people are feeling and doing, there's also the potential of people leaving the country and going somewhere else to populate something else. We mentioned immigration in Italy, in America, how other populations are pumping the population of another country in need. America is a perfect example because it was built on immigration. And us coming here are adding to the population of the United States and dropping the population of Italy. Of course, my long-term goal is to come back to Italy, but I will be one of the older people, probably before 50, so I can still contribute a little bit. But generally speaking, immigration is another issue. So pumping up policies in Italy to incentivize people to stay or come back will definitely also help population. In addition to that, bringing money back in could help the society and could start to incentivize actually the old concepts of creating a family and everything. With money, there is stability. With stability, there is a will of doing things like sacrificing to create a family. My dad does what you do here in Italy, and I can see how it is not exponential like in the US. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna close it here. LC, what's up? Should I close it here? No, I'm not gonna close it here. Do you have any other questions? Well, I'm smoking this and chilling for a second. I mean, the growth you get in Italy is much more exponential compared to, in America is much more exponential compared to Italy. And my TikTok shows it every single day when I show the numbers of real estate investing in Europe compared to America. When people say that you can get a net return of 12%, I think it rewards people for children, the population will grow. Not really, because you can reward people for having kids for a few years. We actually used to have that policy when I was little. When my brother was born, my mother got an incentive from Italy because she had a kid. The incentive is, I believe, for 1 or 2 years. I mean, the cost of kids does not go down. It keeps on growing as they get older, as they start going out and shit, unless they find a job, which is what we did when I was being a tutor for students and working in the clubs at the age of 14. I mean, was pretty much free for my parents, but not everybody does that. On top of that, if you're paying for the college of your kids, the cost of your kids will increase much more. So there is a lot of stress coming to having kids. And as everything related to kids grew exponentially, especially compared to other costs, if you look at the cost of college went up 400%, while the real, let's say, wages went up 5% in the arch of 30 years. How the fuck can I afford the college that is 4 times more expensive with the same salary? It's fucked up. So also on that side, you should have incentives. Very fucked up, very fucked up. Anyway, guys, 22 minutes. I'm gonna close the video here. I'm actually curious if these views will go into the monetization metrics that I need. But yeah, that's all. Probably gonna do another one tomorrow. So I'm trying to switch all my lives back to YouTube, because TikTok doesn't pay me anyway. Let's pump something that at least could pay you much more, and where people tend to watch for much longer. Tell Ellie before, how's the kitten? One died, killed by a car, and the black one is actually strong. We saved it. So yeah, shit happens. That's all. Peace out. Ciao.